This orphan, betrayed by all his companions, is named Zenas. He grew up in the slums and taught himself healing magic. Zenas was recruited by Aston and helped the team grow from weak to strong. But now, he's been expelled. His teammates treat him like a stray dog, casually insulting and mocking him. Next, Aston plans to serve the nobles and the royal family. He doesn't want Zenas' lowborn status to leave a bad impression on those important figures. Aston throws a single gold coin at Zenas as if he's tossing a coin to a beggar, treating it as compensation. In the next moment, the mocking laughter of the team members pours down on Zenas like a heavy downpour. These bastards would never imagine that the useless person in their eyes will soon rise again. In the near future, Zenas will become the most popular man in the city. The elf girl, lizardkin, wolf girl, ogre, and the human female warrior all have a crush on Zenas, including the 300-year-old ghost queen. They are all fervent admirers of Zenas, and to compete for the chance to marry him, they even initiate a grand battle with hundreds of participants. Back to the present, the elf girl Lily is kidnapped by a human trafficking organization. While trying to escape, she is ambushed and severely injured. At this moment, Zenas, who has just been expelled, passes by. He buys the dying Lily with the gold coin Aston gave him. Zenas uses his healing magic to instantly heal Lily's fatal wounds. Growing up in the slums and self-teaching healing magic, Zenas lacks much formal magical knowledge. Therefore, he doesn't realize that his healing speed has already surpassed that of many high-level healers. Next, Zenas invites Lily to dinner. He has received very low rewards while teaming up with Aston, and after this meal, Zenas' savings will almost be gone. He starts worrying about how to make money. At this moment, an unexpected event occurs. A lizardkin named Zond appears, and his arm is badly burned by magic. If left untreated, he could even be in life-threatening danger. Zenas immediately heals the lizardkin. Zond expresses his gratitude and hands over a generous payment for the treatment. At this moment, Zenas finds a clear direction for his future efforts. He decides to open a clinic, where he can both earn money and receive gratitude. Having worked with Aston for so many years, Zenas has never heard a single thank you. In the end, he was discarded like trash. However, Zenas doesn't have a medical license, so for now, he can only work in an abandoned house in the slums. Soon, Zenas and Lily find a suitable location. It's far from any neighbors, and no one is likely to report them. Lily uses a lighting spell to illuminate the area. She only knows some basic magic, and in the future, she will assist Zenas in running the clinic. Suddenly, a ghost girl named Carmilla appears on the stairs, launching several attacks. Zenas uses his healing magic to intimidate Carmilla. It turns out that he was once abandoned by Aston in a dungeon, which led him to develop the ability to counteract Ghost. Realizing that her opponent is far stronger than expected, Carmilla reluctantly agrees to Zenas' proposal for cohabitation. After a night of tidying up, Zenas finally manages to make the abandoned house look much cleaner. Just then, Zofia, accompanied by her brother Zond, finds Zenas. Her right hand has been infected by poison, and an amputation must be performed as soon as possible. If delayed, the poison will spread, putting her life in danger. Zofia is very strong-willed. She knows that losing her right hand will greatly affect her combat ability, but she still agrees to the surgery. What happens next shocks everyone. After performing the amputation, Zenas uses his healing magic to help Zofia's arm regenerate. Zofia is deeply grateful to Zenas. She is the leader of a gang in the slums, and a decrease in her combat ability could lead to her gang being swallowed up by rivals. A few days later, another gang leader Linda visits Zenas. She leads a gang of wolf beastkins and has always been in competition with Zofia. Recently, Linda has noticed that Zofia's subordinates always recover quickly after being injured. After investigating, she discovers that it is Zenas who helped Zofia. Furious, Linda immediately comes to confront him, intending to kill Zofia's ally. Zenas uses his self-taught protective magic to block Linda's attack. Soon after, a pack of wolf beastkins surrounds him, but none can break through his defenses. Carmilla is furious at the intruders. Zenas quickly notices her desire to kill and immediately persuades her to stop. The ghost holds a high position among the dark races, naturally exuding an aura that can intimidate wolf beastkins. Linda didn't expect that even a high-level being like Carmilla would follow Zenas' commands. Realizing her misstep, she immediately apologizes, signaling her subordinates to back down. Just when Zenas finally manages to resolve one problem, a new one arises. An ogre suddenly arrives, requesting that Zenas accompany him back to the gang to treat Loey. Zenas is left feeling helpless. Linda has built a palace next door, and Zofia frequently comes to deliver treasures. Now, the leader of the third gang in the slums, Loey, appears as well. In just 1 month since opening, Zenas has already crossed paths with the 3 major demi-human gangs. Soon, Zenas arrives at the ogre's gang. He discovers that Loey has a magic crystal embedded in her body. This is a tricky problem. The magic crystal has already started its countdown, and once it explodes, everyone nearby will die. Yet, the gang members are incredibly loyal and refuse to leave, choosing to stay with Loey and face death together. Loey believes that she is most likely going to be blown up. She doesn't want her wealth to fall into the hands of her enemies. Just at that moment, she hears that Zenas has been treating the children in the slums for free, and decides to give all her property to Zenas, urging him to use it to help those in need. Zenas is deeply moved by Loey's selflessness. He once again performs a miraculous healing spell, quickly removing the magic crystal from Loey's abdomen. In the next moment, Zenas casts a protective spell on his palm and directly triggers the crystal's explosion. Zenas' power is unfathomable. He cares for saving lives and is indifferent to money, which leads Loey to fall in love with him. From that day on, the three gang leaders in the slums visit Zenas every day. Interestingly, Zenas, who has no knowledge of magic, is equally clueless when it comes to love. He can't understand why those three keep showing up. That's when Carmilla steps in. As a 300-year-old ghost, she has witnessed every kind of human emotion. Carmilla is certain that each of the three gang leaders has fallen in love with Zenas. Lily, hearing this, becomes very worried. She likes Zenas too, but she feels like she can't compete with the three powerful gang leaders. Zenas, however, has even less confidence than Lily. He has long been suppressed by Aston and was ultimately driven out amidst the mockery of his teammates. Zenas doesn't believe that any woman could ever truly love him. The next event forces Zenas to believe Carmilla's judgment. The three gang leaders take turns seeking out Zenas, and they prepare to start a three-way battle, where only the winner will have the chance to exclusively win Zenas' heart. The atmosphere in the arena is tense as members of the three gangs gather. Everyone is prepared for a battle to the death today, and the battle soon begins. To my surprise, the first official fight isn't against the villains, but rather between a few female characters competing for the protagonist's heart. I have to give credit to the scriptwriter for this unique idea. The battle rages on from noon until dusk, with the participants realizing that despite all the fighting, not a single person has died. At this moment, Zenas suddenly appears. Knowing that mere words won't be effective, he continuously casts healing magic to prevent any casualties. Zenas once again showcases his terrifying power. His magical energy reserves and healing speed have surpassed the limits of what most humans can comprehend. The three gang leaders are completely captivated by Zenas. They abandon their violent struggle and instead decide to use their own charms to win Zenas' affection. Zenas unknowingly brings peace to the slums, but at the same time, he attracts a great deal of trouble. The kingdom where Zenas lives divides people into different social classes. Almost all healers are born to wealthy or noble families. The lower-class citizens are confined to the slums for their entire lives, with very few opportunities to climb the social ladder. Despite Zenas' incredible healing abilities, he has never had the chance to obtain a healer's license. Fortunately, Zenas has no ambitions. He is very content with his current life and enjoys going out to provide free treatment to the poor. On the days when Zenas is away, his home remains lively. The three leaders of the gangs no longer focus on developing their gangs, but instead, they come to pester Zenas every day. Sometimes, when they find that Zenas is not at home, they are willing to wait here the entire day. This makes Lily very troubled. Every time she sees her three rivals flaunting their figures, she wishes she could grow up quickly and become a beautiful elf woman. I suspect that part of the reason Zenas goes out to treat the poor is to avoid his harem. One day, Zenas encounters a beastkin named Till. He sees Till being abused by her owner, Forbes. Zenas doesn't intervene. The law grants slave owners significant power, and if Zenas were to act recklessly, he would be committing a crime. However, Forbes soon faces retribution. He had been forcing Till to participate in tomb raiding. Till's resentment is exploited by a spirit in the graveyard, and she loses her sanity in an instant, turning into a monster that keeps attacking. As Zenas passes by, he witnesses this scene and refuses Forbes' request to eliminate Till. Then, Zenas demonstrates his strength once again. He exorcises the evil spirit that has possessed Till and heals the beastkin girl's wounds. While Till is unconscious, Zenas strikes a deal with Forbes. He helps Forbes with the treatment, and in return, Forbes pays 50 gold coins and hands over Till's slave contract. Zenas feels that Till and Lily are very similar. They both became slaves for various reasons and have since lived dark lives. So, Zenas heals Till of all her illnesses. It's common for the people in the slums to be plagued by various diseases, as they are unable to afford treatment. Before parting ways, Zenas tears up the slave contract. He represents the will of the lower class, striving for fairness and freedom. This poor beastkin girl, after enduring long periods of darkness, finally sees the light. Zenas' stance is destined to clash with the noble class. Next, Next, a new character, Krishna, makes her debut. She is the vice commander of the city's Royal Order of Knights. Today, she receives an order to go to the slums and investigate the reasons behind the gang's ceasefire. For a long time, the kingdom have been enforcing a class system, inciting hatred between the rich and the poor, and between humans and demi-humans. If the lower classes manage to unite, they might develop ideas of rebellion against the royal family and the nobility. Zenus hasn't realized that danger is approaching. He has heard of Krishna's name from several of the gang leaders. Zenus knows she is a dangerous woman, but he doesn't think he will have any direct interaction with her. As dusk falls, Krishna sneaks into the slums. During her investigation of Zenus, she finds that no one is willing to reveal the reason behind the peace in the slums. Just then, Zofia and Zahn happen to pass by, and Krishna, not wanting to expose herself too soon, quickly retreats. Krishna's biggest weakness is her tendency to get lost. While fleeing, she accidentally ends up at Zenus' house. The next moment, she points her gun directly at Zenus' head and fires. Krishna acts this way because she sees the elf girl Lily living with Zenus, and mistakenly believes he is a criminal who kidnaps children. Lily becomes anxious and quickly explains that Zenus is actually the one who saved her. Once Krishna realizes her mistake, she grows concerned, worried that Zenus, an ordinary person, can't withstand a shot from her gun. But anyone who knows Zenus is well aware that he is far from ordinary. It's just that Zenus has spent all his time in the slums, cut off from information, completely unaware of how powerful he truly is. Krishna becomes deeply curious. For someone to take her attack head-on without injury, they must be a warrior of great renown. Yet she has never once heard the name Zenus. Even so, that alone isn't enough for her to connect him with the mysterious person she's been searching for. Krishna tells Zenus that she is looking for someone who has brought peace to the gangs in the slums. Both Zenus and Lily become tense, fearing that Krishna might uncover their true identities. Krishna, influenced by the nobles, holds a deep-seated prejudice against the slums. She instinctively believes that anyone trying to unify the slums must have sinister motives, and could possibly lead the impoverished to overthrow the king's rule. Zenus, wanting nothing more than to get rid of Krishna quickly, finds something unexpected happens. Krishna, lacking friends in the slums, expresses a desire to use Zenus' place as a base for her investigation. Unable to find a valid excuse to refuse her, Zenus reluctantly agrees to let the warrior woman stay. Lily, feeling resentful, views Krishna as yet another potential rival for Zenus' attention. She climbs onto Zenus' lap, acting in a more intimate manner to show the bond between them. The awkward part is that no one seems to notice Lily's unusual behavior. After all, she's just a young girl, and Zenus sees her only as a sister. If Lily ever learned that Zenus thought of her that way, she'd likely cry for the entire night. After Lily falls asleep, Krishna quietly asks Zenus whether there is a well-known healer in the slums. She recalls inflicting a nearly incurable wound on gang leader Zofia's arm, but just recently, she sees that Zofia's injury has completely healed. This raises Krishna's suspicion. She believes there might be a powerful healer hidden in the slums, someone who could even be controlling the three major gangs through magic. Zenus is curious about Krishna's hostility toward the poor, and Krishna shares a painful story. Her mother, a kind-hearted woman, used to give food to the poor. One day, during an attempted robbery, she was killed by the very people she tried to help. Since then, Krishna dedicates herself to training and fighting crime, and her smile disappears. The trauma plants a deep seed of hatred in her heart, leaving her with a natural bias against the poor. During the days Krishna stays with Zenus, she heads out early every morning to continue her investigation. Zenus can only heal gang members while she's away. Unfortunately, one day, while Zenus is treating Zofia, Krishna suddenly returns. The moment she walks in, both women draw their weapons. But before the fight begins, Zofia confronts Krishna. She accuses her of thinking she is fighting crime, when in reality, she is just another pawn being used by the nobles. Minister Calendar has long been involved in human trafficking, yet Krishna never intervenes against such a serious crime. She initially assumes Zofia is just trying to distract her, but when she sees the sincerity in Zofia's eyes and Zenus stepping in to shield her from harm, Krishna begins to waver. In the end, she chooses to investigate Calendar. Using the excuse of preventing thieves, Krishna visits Calendar's mansion to inspect its security measures. The minister doesn't seem bothered by the sudden inspection. He remains calm and welcoming throughout. Still, Krishna notices something odd. So many guards are here, and the security is far tighter than in the homes of other ministers. Claiming she needs to use the bathroom, Krishna sneaks off alone and uncovers a hidden underground prison. Inside, she finds dozens of children locked away. Before she can react, Calendar launches a surprise attack. Krishna is caught off guard and suffers a serious injury. The corrupt minister then attempts to force her to join his private harem. Fortunately, Zofia and Zenas arrive just in time, proving their earlier concerns were entirely justified. Although Krishna is stronger in combat, Calendar's cunning and careful planning nearly bring her down. Calendar fires his gun at Zenas, planning to force Zofia into his harem as well. To his shock, Zenas is completely immune to the attack. Calendar finally panics, and he begins to beg Zenas for forgiveness. In truth, this bastard does not feel any remorse for his actions. He is simply afraid of dying, but Zenas chooses not to kill him. Keeping Calendar alive is the only way to uncover the criminal organization behind him. Once again, Zenas demonstrates the miraculous power of his healing magic. Krishna's severed arm regenerates fully. Only then does she finally believe that Zenas has mastered both defensive and healing magic at an advanced level. Encouraged by Zenas, Krishna pulls herself together. She rescues the imprisoned children and begins to reflect on her deeply biased views of the poor. Her encounter with Zenas changes many things for her. For instance, after so many years since her mother's death, Krishna is finally able to smile again. At the same time, a man is about to lose his smile. Aston, the one who drove Zenas away, leads his team on a mission to hunt monsters. They act like an amateur, drinking heavily the night before battle, leaving everyone in a poor mental state. Things only get worse from there. When Zenas was around, Aston could defeat A-rank monsters without getting hurt. Now that Zenas is gone, Aston struggles even against B-rank monsters. His team suffers serious injuries, and they come dangerously close to being wiped out. Aston wrongly assumes that any healer can replace Zenas. He brings in a mid-level healer named Human, but everything is the same. Without Zenas' powerful healing abilities, Aston's team faces a devastating defeat. If it weren't for Human's efforts, some of the team members would have died on the spot. Aston realizes that even Human, a mid-level healer, is unable to treat the wounded quickly. At this moment, Aston begins to doubt his previous assumptions. Maybe Zenas truly does have a natural talent for healing. He recalls the first time he met Zenas, and at that time, he thought he looked like a beggar. But back then, Aston himself was in a rough spot, with no fame or money, so he invited Zenas to form a team with him. Zenas' healing was so fast that ordinary people couldn't even notice it happening. Aston mistakenly believed he was so strong that he never got hurt in battle. Now, facing the reality of his wounded teammates and the lack of support, Aston decides he must bring Zenas back. The nobles, whom he tries to win the favor of, are constantly pressuring him. He has to gather a new team quickly and defeat the monsters he has already failed to eliminate twice. Aston arrives at the slums, planning to use the gangs to track down Zenas' current whereabouts. When he first meets Zofia, he begins fantasizing about taking her into his harem. However, reality quickly strikes him with a harsh blow. Upon learning of Aston's identity, Zofia immediately starts mocking the man who had expelled Zenas. Aston feels Zofia's hostility, so he reluctantly visits the gang led by Linda. To his surprise, Linda is even better at insulting people than Zofia. She nearly insults him to the point where he could have had a heart attack. Frustrated, Aston speculates that some gang must be willing to accept his commission. To his embarrassment, he is proven wrong. The final gang leader, Loey, is also unfriendly toward him. Aston finds a way to comfort himself, convincing himself that the Zenas he knows and the one the gang leaders know are simply two different people who happen to share the same name. Just then, Aston happens to see Zenas passing by, and he believes that his recruitment attempt will surely succeed. However, Zenas chooses to refuse. Any normal person would never accept such an offer, which shocks Aston deeply. He has always looked down on Zenas and never imagined that he would be turned down. After several failed attempts to persuade Zenas, Aston becomes enraged. Just as he is about to seek revenge on Zenas, Krishna shoots him down with a single shot. Aston knows how strong this woman is, and without hesitation, he immediately flees. Soon after, the three gang leaders gather at Zenas' house. They try to track down Aston, but it's like he has vanished into thin air. The best case scenario is that Aston simply left the area, but if he has joined an illegal organization, Zenas will be in trouble. Hiring an assassin requires a large sum of money. Just when everyone thinks Aston can't afford to take revenge on Zenas, Zofia suddenly says something. Recently, a mysterious figure has appeared in the illegal organization. This person will accept commissions without payment, as long as he finds the task suitable. Late into the night, Zenas lies awake, unable to sleep. Lily tries to comfort him, but she falls asleep more quickly than Zenas. Zenas isn't worried about retaliation, and he just feels a bit complicated after seeing Aston again. To help Zenas shake off these negative emotions, Carmilla starts talking about the technology from 300 years ago, hoping to distract him. The plan works perfectly. When Zenas hears about the technology to create life from 300 years ago, he shows genuine interest. Just then, a powerful tremor shakes the ground, resembling an earthquake. Carmilla flies into the air to investigate, and suddenly she shows a serious face. A monster is causing destruction everywhere. Many slum dwellers are fleeing in panic, knowing that if they get stepped on, they'll be crushed into pulp. The monster stands as tall as a castle. Carmilla tells Zenas that the creature was created using technology from 300 years ago, a product of demon craftsmanship. However, even the Demon King has already been defeated, and Carmilla does not understand who could still possess such techniques now. Zenas does not have time to investigate where the monster came from. He instructs the 3 gang leaders to gather the injured. At this moment, the gangs act more like a charity organization as they work actively to rescue people. Zenas casts a mass healing spell. Those with light injuries recover immediately, while the severely wounded have to be treated one by one. His anger is just as intense as when he was betrayed by his former teammates. Aston has just shown up, and now such a disaster follows. It is clearly not a coincidence. At the same time, a mysterious man, whom Zofia once mentioned, is watching Zenas through a telescope. The monster is his creation. He unleashes this chaos to test Zenas' abilities. The results surprise him. He never expects Zenas' healing magic to be so powerful. However, the mysterious man does not choose to flee. Healing the wounded is not enough. Only when the monster he created is also defeated by Zenas will everything truly be over. Carmilla cannot understand how such a creature could exist. Creating a monster like this requires high-purity magic stones, which were already depleted during the Great War between humans and demons 300 years ago. Moreover, with the extinction of the demons, dark magic should have been lost forever. None of these questions can be answered until the group captures the mysterious man. For now, they have only one task left, which is to defeat the monster to end the chaos. Zenas casts attack and defense buffs on the 3 gang leaders and provides them with instant healing during the battle. With his support, the 3 leaders are able to continuously inflict damage on the monster. Zenas notices that the creature has a self-repairing ability, but each repairing takes time. He quickly instructs his allies to focus their attacks on the monster's legs. Just then, something unexpected happens. The monster begins to fall, and a girl is directly in its path. At the last moment, the monster shifts its posture to protect the girl from being crushed. Carmilla tells Zenas that the monster should not possess any intelligence, so this behavior must mean something is wrong. After investigating with Carmilla, Zenas concludes that the monster is an experimental subject created using Aston. There is a reason Zenas suspects this. Many years ago, Aston watched his sister die because he couldn't afford medicine. Since then, his pursuit of money and power made him lose his kindness. Perhaps the girl reminded him of his sister, which briefly brought him back to his senses and caused him to protect her. At this moment, the mystery is solved. The monster is indeed Aston. He had hired the mysterious man to assassinate Zenas, but ended up being deceived and implanted with an incomplete magic stone. This kind of experiment requires strict conditions. The subject must be a human with a simple mind and strong negative emotions. That is why the mysterious man accepts missions without payment. He is only using them to find suitable test subjects. Now the real challenge falls on Zenas. Under normal circumstances, he has only one option, which is to kill Aston. However, after witnessing Aston protect the girl, Zenas feels a trace of pity for his former teammate. Because of that, he chooses a far more dangerous solution. Like a surgeon performing an operation, he begins to dissect the monster's stone-like body. Zenas then casts magic to regenerate Aston's limbs while carefully removing the embedded magic stone. He's determined to track down the mastermind lurking behind the scenes. Zenas is sure that Aston lacks the knowledge to create a monster, and it's even less likely he'd voluntarily use himself as a test subject. Besides, Zenas also feels some gratitude. After all, it was Aston who first brought him out of the slums. These reasons together form the basis of Zenas' decision to save him. In the end, thanks to Zenas' efforts, Aston, who was supposed to die, narrowly escapes death. In that moment, Aston finally realizes that he is the one who is useless compared to Zenas. It was Zenas' healing magic that allowed their team to defeat powerful monsters in the past. Aston offers Zenas a sincere apology. After everything he has experienced, he finally understands how much of a fool he's been. Zenas tells Aston that there's no need to apologize, as he will help ease his guilt with his fists. In the next moment, Aston goes flying from Zenas' punch. But that's not the end. Since Aston causes damage to the slums, Krishna arrests him. He now needs to continue atoning for his actions in prison. Just when Aston thinks he loses everything, Krishna, following Zenas' request, gives him a gold coin. Tears well up in Aston's eyes. He feels truly moved that Zenas still remembers him. After a long night of chaos, Zenas heads home with the support of his harem companions. Meanwhile, the mysterious man chooses to withdraw for now, but in the future, he plans to return with an even darker scheme aimed at Zenas. drained from his recent battle. Zenas planned to take a full day to recover. Unsurprisingly, every girl in his entourage wanted to spend time with him alone, and they all suggested a trip to the hot springs. Carmilla, who loves nothing more than watching women fight over a man, decided to tag along for the show. As expected from a 300-year-old necromancer, Carmilla's prediction was spot on. The battle for Zenas' affection began the moment they arrived. Even the normally composed Krishna was drawn into the fray. Fed up with the chaotic atmosphere, Zenas banished them all back to the women's bath. Lily also wanted Zenas to herself but was held back by her insecurity about her body. Carmilla, sensing Lily's worries, encouraged her not to give up, reminding her that every man has a different taste. After their soak, the group decided a good meal would wash away their remaining fatigue. But wherever the girls gathered, a fight over Zenas was sure to follow. Unable to handle it, Zenas escaped to have a drink with Carmilla. He had always been curious about who Carmilla was before she died, but seeing her reluctance to speak of it, he dropped the subject. That night, with Carmilla by his side, Zenas felt a peace he had never known before. Then, a loud explosion shattered the calm, heralding a major change in Zenas' life. It all started when he and Uma stumbled upon the hot spring's owner, who had been badly injured in the blast. Uma assessed the owner's severe injuries, concluding that his hand could only be saved by rushing him to the royal hospital. Zenas, however, healed him effortlessly, leaving not even a scar. Stunned by a level of healing magic she had never witnessed, Uma suspected Zenas might be a saint or a special class healer. She immediately reported the incident to her teacher, Becker, who happened to need someone with precisely those skills to investigate a string of disappearances at the Royal Hospital. Based on Uma's description, Becker guessed the man might be a long-lost friend and decided to meet him. After finding Zenas, Becker faked an illness to witness his incredible healing arts firsthand. Convinced of Zenas' abilities, regardless of whether he was his old friend, Becker revealed his true identity. Zenas was thrilled to learn that Becker was a friend of his master, about whom he knew very little. Becker made a promise. If Zenas would come with him to the Royal Hospital to help investigate the disappearances, he would tell Zenas everything he knew about his master. With an agreement reached, Zenas began his new life at the Royal Hospital as a special research student, accompanied by Lily and Carmilla. There, Zenas learned that the person he was looking for was named Fred. Fred had once assisted Becker in developing many miracle drugs but vanished after being transferred to work under Vice Director Goldbrand. Both Becker and Uma suspected Goldbrand was connected to his disappearance. Currently, Goldbrand was busy recruiting talented individuals to support his bid to become the next director. Becker and Uma's plan was for Zenas to achieve academic success, which would grant him an opportunity to get close to Goldbrand. Zenas, unaware of the true extent of his own power, doubted he was up to the task but promised to do his best. Their chance came sooner than expected. Goldbrand was sending students to a cemetery to exorcise spirits, using the task to scout for talent. While the other students struggled to eliminate the spirits one by one, Zenas wiped out a massive swarm in just 5 seconds. However, a boy named Crescent, desperate to solidify his position in Goldbrand's faction, immediately claimed all the credit for himself. In the next moment, he paid the price for his arrogance. Their actions had provoked the Zombie King. Knowing he was no match for it, Crescent was too proud to ask Zenas for help. Just as Crescent was about to be devoured, Zenas swooped in, saving his life and destroying the Zombie King. Zenas' outstanding performance caught the eye of Goldbrand, who invited him to join his team. Crescent, who had struggled for a long time to become one of Goldbrand's followers, was intensely jealous that Zenas had joined so easily, even though Zenas had just saved him. Consequently, during their daily studies, Crescent constantly pulled rank on Zenas, treating him like a junior. Zenas paid him no mind and instead asked him about Fred. Upon learning that Fred disappeared right after attending one of Goldbrand's dinner parties, Becker urged Zenas to showcase his abilities as quickly as possible to earn an invitation to a similar party and gather more intelligence. One day, Crescent invited Zenas to help him look after Goldbrand's beloved dog. He figured that if he could take excellent care of the dog, he would surely win Goldbrand's favor and secure a bright future. His perfect plan soon met with disaster. The dog was struck by a carriage and severely injured. Despite several rounds of treatment from Crescent, the dog's condition didn't improve. Zenas, however, stepped in and healed the dog completely, without leaving a single scar. This feat forced Crescent to see Zenas in a new, more respectful light. Not long after, Crescent approached Zenas again, this time to ask for his help with an incredibly dangerous mission. Recently, Countess Fennel's daughter, Charlotte, developed a tumor on her face and needed treatment, but she was very concerned about her appearance and feared that surgical removal would leave a scar. Goldbrand was troubled about how to proceed with the treatment. Just then, his secretary told him that his beloved dog had fully recovered after being hit by a carriage and treated by Zenas, and its fur was still shiny. So, he asked Zenas to assist him in treating Charlotte. Crescent wanted to impress Goldbrand, but he knew his skills were too poor, so he could only beg Zenas for help. Zenas believed that if someone needed treatment, he should do his best, so he agreed to help. On the day of the surgery, Crescent was afraid his lie would be exposed, so he could only ask Zenas to help him secretly. At this point, Crescent discovered that Charlotte's tumor had already invaded her nerves, and a hasty surgery would lead to facial paralysis. Goldbrand worried that such a surgical outcome would damage his reputation and pushed all the responsibility onto Crescent. Zenas felt that their argument was meaningless, so he decisively picked up the scalpel, removed the tumor, and repaired the nerves, effectively preventing facial paralysis. His legendary operation shocked Goldbrand. Count Fennel was completely unaware of what happened in the operating room and believed that Goldbrand had saved his daughter. He decided to support Goldbrand in becoming the next Dean. Goldbrand specially invited Crescent and Zenas to a private dinner. Bell was very happy to hear this news. He didn't expect Zenas to be able to attend a private dinner so quickly and instructed him to discreetly inquire about a Fred. On the day of the dinner, Zenas brought Lily with him. After several rounds of inquiries, they focused their attention on Bones. He was the only person a Fred had interacted with at the dinner. Bones was a notorious drunkard, and to get more information out of him, Lily and Zenas kept plying him with drinks. Eventually, while drunk, Bones revealed that Goldbrand entered the Royal Hospital 13 years ago, after a major explosion, with the help of Count Fennel. Just as Zenas and Lily were worrying about the broken lead, Carmilla suddenly appeared and helped them deduce what happened. She believed that an unknown healer being favored by Count Fennel likely meant he successfully saved Count Fennel during the big explosion. But given Goldbrand's personality, if he had been the one to treat him, he would have definitely used this event to make a name for himself and wouldn't have chosen to conceal the truth. Lily followed this logic and inferred that Fennel was treated by someone else, and Goldbrand stole their credit. Bones knew the truth, but Goldbrand bribed him to keep silent. A Fred might have gone into hiding because he knew the truth and feared Goldbrand would silence him permanently. Zenas then proposed an even darker idea. He knew that Goldbrand was best at life transfer magic and craved power. He speculated that the explosion 13 years ago was likely orchestrated by Goldbrand himself. He intentionally injured Count Fennel and simultaneously used the lives of other victims to treat him, making Count Fennel indebted to him. The investigation finally made some progress, and Zenas planned to quietly enjoy the banquet food. Unexpectedly, Zofia arrived with her injured brother. She knew Zenas had important matters to attend to, but she was worried that without Zenas' treatment, her brother would be in mortal danger, so she could only kneel and beg Zenas. Zenas didn't hesitate and immediately left the dinner to start the treatment. He believed that saving lives was what a healer should do, more so than power or career. His words completely enraged Goldbrand, who couldn't accept a faction member getting involved with commoners, and he vowed to make it impossible for Zenas to stay in the industry. Perhaps Zenas' words stirred Crescent's conscience, as he quickly followed suit and joined the treatment, but he never expected that by the time he found them, Zofia's brother had already fully recovered. Afterward, Zenas told Bell about his investigation results. Bell then remembered that a Fred had once mentioned that his family had experienced a change when he was young. Therefore, they guessed that a Fred was likely planning to take revenge at Goldbrand's Dean inauguration ceremony, which was happening tomorrow. Bell was very grateful for Zenas' investigation and promised to help apply for investigation funds and tell him everything about Zenas' master. At Goldbrand's inauguration banquet, he and his supporters collapsed, seemingly poisoned. Becker was the only one conscious in the entire hall. It turns out that 13 years ago, Goldbrand witnessed a huge explosion and transferred the lives of other injured people at the scene to Count Fennel, thus saving Count Fennel. Bones happened to film the entire process, which is why Goldbrand valued him so much. What Goldbrand didn't know was that among those whose lives he took was Becker's fiancée. Today, Becker decided to recreate the situation from 13 years ago, making Goldbrand choose who to save among himself, Fennel, and other supporters. On top of that, Becker upped the ante by taking the poison himself, to see if Goldbrand would save him first to get the antidote. Goldbrand completely ignored him, as he had already decided to sacrifice his supporters' lives to heal himself. Just then, Uma arrived with Zenas and Crescent. Earlier, they had found photos taken by Bones in Becker's office, and in those photos, they discovered a Fred and Becker's fiancée, guessing that the one truly seeking revenge was likely Becker. In fact, Becker only learned of his fiancée's death being related to Goldbrand after a Fred attended Goldbrand's banquet, but a Fred disappeared before he could tell him the whole truth, which is why he thought of hiring Zenas to help him find a Fred. Although Zenas didn't find him, he helped Becker piece together the truth. Crescent deeply sympathized with Becker, but he felt that such revenge, casually harming others' lives, was no different from Goldbrand. After all, healers were born to protect others' health. Zenas, on the other hand, was a man of action. He decided to do everything he could to save all lives. First, he couldn't bear to see so many innocent lives lost in vain. And second, he didn't want Becker to be blinded by hatred and become a murderer, because he knew Becker was a kind person. Crescent's words and Zena's actions touched Becker. He recalled that his fiancee's ambition was to heal the wounded and rescue the dying, and realized that his revenge was trampling on her aspirations, for which he sincerely apologized. Everyone gradually woke up after treatment and, realizing that Goldbrand had just tried to use their lives to save himself, they all opposed him, including Count Fennel. After everything settled down, Becker told Zenas that he had only used a paralyzing agent to scare Goldbrand, but after he took the paralyzing agent himself, he realized it had been swapped with poison. He guessed it was likely done by the missing Afred, because he had seen Afred at the inauguration banquet. To his surprise, Afred did not show up when they exposed the truth. He guessed that the person who had been by his side for 13 years was an imposter, and the real Afred might have died long ago. After finishing his life at the Royal Hospital, Zenas returned to his own healing clinic with Lily. Life returned to its usual calm. The person impersonating Afred, like the mysterious person before him, seemed to know Zenas very well. I have a feeling they are the same person, and in the future, he will become the biggest trouble in Zenas' life. Congratulations! You finished another anime recap on my channel. I hope you enjoyed this story. I'm increasingly looking forward to the ultimate ending of this story. What kind of person can truly stand against the powerful Zenas? Let's anticipate the story of Season 2 together. Finally, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel.